This conference will now be recorded.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming out this evening in the snowish. The first order on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have the March 11th minutes, the regular meeting. We have a motion and a second to approve those minutes. Tim makes the motion. Is there a second?
One second.
Karen seconds. Discussion.
John, I found one more thing. On the March 11th one, the actual cost of that trailer was $14,090 on the invoice today when I went through it.
I can't change it though. That is what the estimate quote was.
Okay,
So that's what's got to stay in.
okay.
Yeah, what they did was they've got, they suggested we get a sort of a tarp that goes over the poles so it can do a covering on the, covers the load,
Okay.
basically. They suggested it at John, and we said, well, while you're there. So yeah, the trailer's there. I don't know when it's going to be plated and things. We have this plates and things like that, but John's been working with Nicole, and they'll time it so that when I go down to Elizabeth Town, I'll file it with the DMV. Any other discussion about those minutes?
Do you guys want to turn these minutes?
No, it's in the bill. Thanks. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, so there was a regular work session meeting on March 26th. There's this proposed minutes have been circulated. We have a motion and a second to accept the proposed minutes. Tim makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Laura. Discussion. Okay, hearing no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, we have no guests tonight, but we do have some reports from department. Eddie submitted a written department, but Louis is here for the highway, and he's first on the list.
So I only got a couple things. I know he said it at the work session, but we got a grant from Sable Freshwater to replace that culvert on John Bliss Road, which doesn't look like it's this year, possibly next year. But we did get a grant for that, which I think was in the cost of $300,000, was it? Yeah.
Yep.
And that's shared with us doing a lot of the work with them. So other than that, we're waiting for spring to get here for cleanup. We haven't started yet. We've also been working in our mine behind the highway garage, fixing slopes and stuff for DC. So we've been working in there, hauling fill in there, and fixing all the slopes and stuff. And other than that, we've been doing vehicle maintenance, and we're still out sanding here and there. So other than that, that's it. We get inspected by the DEC. We have a permit based on the way in which the old landfill was basically turned over and things like that into the transfer station. So we have a permit, and they come and check us periodically, and they came on March 20th this year. A couple of DEC inspectors walked the place and gave some suggestions on where to continue. What we're doing is we're refilling it in with project, fill and things from various shoulder stuff.
Yeah, stuff like that. And it's going, it's going regularly. We don't have to necessarily hurry, but they come and check us occasionally, and that's what it was about. Thanks, Louis. So the next one is the water department, which is written. So Ed has issued the monthly water report, and it's also, we're doing our annual water quality drinking report for 2024.
Copies of these will be available at the town hall and will be posted on the website. It has a lot of, regulatory limits, MCLs, TTs, ALs, and things like that. But Ed did highlight that our system had no violations. And so he highlighted that. So we got a successful report on our annual water quality. And Ed works very hard, and he does a very good job, and should be congratulated for continuing to give us such good results. Anybody have any questions about the water report? Comments?
Did a good job on it.
Thank you. Ed. Next report, we do have a monthly report from Doug. Doug is here also tonight because we're going to be discussing the zoning code amendments that were passed by the planning board. So he's available in case certain questions come up. But Doug's report is there's been 3 building permits issued. They collected $1,192.40 in fees. There are 48 open permits, and he did 10 plus site visits. The short-term rental update, we have 150 active permits. The fees collected to date for 2025 are $15,650. And the total fees collected since the inception of the STR permit process are $108,100. The waiting list for the STR permit is they have 3 incomplete applications. But apart from that, it's been working pretty successfully to date. I do have a question, Doug, if you don't mind. How you're sending out periodically renewals and things like that for the STR
Every month,
permits?
I send out a new batch,
Okay.
and it's 2 months in advance, and to give people time to get all the information.
Okay. And how are you doing with that?
Good.
Awesome.
Are you finding that many people are not renewing? Like, I'm sure there's been a few. Have there been any?
It's 1, because they moved back to the town full time.
Okay.
Is it the new application?
Yes,
Okay.
So by the incomplete, what are they not basically completing? now?
either they didn't purchase the property yet, they didn't build a house yet, they didn't have the paperwork in, whatever it is that makes it incomplete.
Just curious.
Anything else for Doug? Thank you, Doug. Now, John is excused tonight, and so is the dog control. I will report that the dog control officer will give us a report. He is now sort of investigating and processing a dangerous dog complaint, and I suggested that when he has that complaint complete, he could submit it and come in to talk to the board about how things are going in the dog control department. The Visitors Bureau, Colin.
Hello, everyone. So I'm pretty excited because in a little over a month from now, it's going to be warm and beautiful, and it's going to be a Thursday evening, and we're going to be celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Ausable 2 Fly Challenge. And you're here, all here, you're hearing it first. All right, are you ready? Can I get a drum roll from someone? We're giving, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of this event, we're giving any Wilmington local 25% off the fee for this. And I haven't announced that yet. You're hearing it here first. I'm really excited. Why am I excited? Well, the t-shirt and the glass designs are in the work, and I'm really excited about where they're at. The t-shirts, I'm going to see the mock-up tomorrow. Yes.
Who did that design?
Yes, so thank you for asking. Artificial intelligence. I use Canva to do
That's
it.
horrifying. It's really good.
It is really horrifyingly good. And I had a conversation, side note, with my daughter who is in an art school, and she made me promise moving forward I would never do that again. and got all behind, and I'm behind it. I want to support. So artists, next time, it is an amazing design, but I did not make it. No human made it.
I'm
But
terrified.
moving forward, humans will be making the designs, preferably local humans. So any artists, anyway, so I'm going to sit back down and keep talking. So We're currently seeking sponsors. So if you're a business owner, we're seeking sponsors, and the deadline for sponsorship is going to be, I need 3 weeks to get your logo on the t-shirt. So it's going to be about April 25th. And I sent an email out to local business owners just recently, and with all the sponsorship deadlines for all the events. Let's see. We have Above Social coming in to help us promote this event since it's such a big deal, and we're excited that's a new thing. We last time I just launched a registration and had like 2 people signed up. We now have 24 people signed up. And yeah, I need volunteers for this. So if anybody wants to volunteer, come and see me at the Whiteface Visitors Bureau. I am there from 9 to 3, Monday through Friday. Or go visit Barb on Saturday. She likes visitors, and you can just leave your name and your contact information, and you're going to get an enthusiastic Colin calling you up. And so the uphill races, we are at 14 for the foot race, and that's up 10 from last month. We're up 25 on the bike race at 112 so far. I'm meeting with the Sports Council on the 24th to talk about the 100K race that's happening. And we need sponsors, and we also need volunteers for that. So if anybody wants to volunteer for that event or sponsor that event, well, you know where to find me. And Music Fest, tickets can now be bought online. You can buy them at a discounted rate before the day of, and we're looking for sponsors for that as well. The sponsorship drive has been launched. For the Festival of Fall Colors, we're up 3 vendors from the last time I reported. We're currently at 15 vendors, and we have 4 food vendors locked in. And so that's where we're at. We need volunteers for that as well. Sponsors for that. Thank you. That's all I got. Any questions?
Said 25% off for the 2 flag for Wilmington.
Locals,
Okay.
Wilmington only. The guideline, you have to have a Wilmington address. Yes. Yep, that's a Wilmington thing.
What does it
Love
cost to
Wilmington
participate?
here. Is that
What is the fee for someone from Lake Placid?
for why it's $150?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Colin. Okay, so next on the agenda is reports from board members, and the first is Tim.
Hold on, rating 25% off. I'm going to write a resolution honoring Greg Winch and expressing the board's appreciation for his 3 decades of service to the town, and expressing the board's condolences and sympathy to his family. So I'm aiming to, there's no reason why I shouldn't. It'll be like maybe 5 paragraphs, and I'll have presented to the town board at our work session. And so if anyone has any memories or facts about Greg, anecdotes that you would like to see included in the resolution, please let me know. I would like to see the town honor Greg in another way as well. And I had the thought, I think it would be appropriate to name either the picnic area at the beach or the baseball field at the park after him. If the rest of the board doesn't feel that's appropriate, perhaps we could think of another way to honor his 3 decades of service to the community. Thank you all for coming. That's my report.
Thank you. What we could do is just do a general resolution here, and then you could present the written one.
Okay.
So if you want to make a resolution now.
Okay. I'll make a resolution expressing the town board's appreciation for Greg's lifetime status as a pillar of the community. He was a pillar of the community for decades. His decades of employment and service to the town, and our condolences and sympathies to his family and friends.
Motion made by Tim, second?
Second.
Second, unanimous second. Thank you. Thanks, Tim. Darren?
Don't really have anything to report other than, which you might touch on, but the generator was installed finally. We're just waiting for the propane to get hooked up. So we do have an emergency generator at the town hall that will be operational within a couple weeks. Do we want to talk about that right now as far as getting the propane with the rest of the board
Go ahead.
hooked up?
Yep.
So the propane does need to get hooked up by a certified propane installer, and the installer recommended who we get our propane from, which is MX Fuels, Renee Repair. They're out of like Shazy area. They do all the hookups for MX Fuels. $140 an hour, and they estimate 3 hours to get it hooked up and tested. So I would make a resolution that we move forward with getting that generator hooked up through Renee's Repair at those rates.
Yeah, he did, somebody's been communicating with Carissa about that, and that's where we know the number in the quote. So that's a motion from Darren. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Tina. Questions or discussions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Get those numbers from Carissa.
And then the only other thing, I'm just kind of looking for an update. I know we ordered the playground equipment last meeting. What did our rep say for time frame?
Oh, dear. I do know it's on schedule for the summer, before summer in some way. I don't have that information in front of me. I have a file on it back there. So we've placed the order, and, I had to get back to them to tell them where we want it delivered. And we're kind of delivered to the Parks Garage here, and then by their carrier, and then we'll have our Parks and the Highway guys help move it up to get it installed at the park. I apologize, I can't remember. But I could get back to you.
It's usually like 8 to 12 weeks, so I was wondering if that timetable was accurate. But
I also had written down that, but I didn't see any invoices.
They haven't invoiced us yet until it gets delivered. I've signed the contract.
Okay, so it did get purchased.
and
I did that a month ago or so, but I think I did right after we had that meeting. Okay, go ahead.
the last thing is just a question for Doug. How has the new dump rates been accepted? Has there been much criticism or
Yeah, there were a
comments?
few people who were complaining about it, but overall it's going smooth.
That's it.
Thank you.
Can I ask a perennial question of Doug that has been coming up over the past few years, just related to the roadways in the cemetery? How bad are they now?
Right now, I think they're in pretty good shape.
Okay.
The highway department and the parks department take care of that.
Okay. I asked you because he was the cemetery sexton, so I just thought. But if
Right,
they're in
I
good
think there's
shape.
a water issue that they need to deal with, and
Yep.
they have an engineer on that.
Yeah, there's been some discussion, and we'll come back to the board when we have some sort of proposal for how best to repair the water that runs off on that stuff. It's John and Louis, and we've had some discussions about that. So Laura, you're next.
I wanted to just take a moment, the Visitors Bureau discussion that we had about the contract. I just want to explain my rationale for voting no, because I didn't have a moment to do that. I really, truly feel like things should be discussed, and I feel like it's always like rush, 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 hush, hush, hush. Like it just, there's this, like you can't get a word in edgewise. We just need to move through things. And I realize that because things have been historically moved through, doesn't mean that we can't have a right as a board member to discuss things. And it really, like, that's why I wanted it to be tabled. And I feel like there should be some language adjustments, maybe next year, but that's where I came from. I have nothing against the Visitors Bureau, no matter how many times that it's said otherwise. I don't mind. I like the events. I have no problem with it. It's just, I feel like we should have a say in the contract. That's what we're on the board for. And it really was given to us at the table. So that was one thing that I wanted to say. Also, I wanted to touch base and see if we did transfer the money. Nicole was not here when I did the invoices and you were in a meeting favor, but the bed tax money for the generator, we were supposed to move that money. And go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. Finish your thoughts.
And then the playground equipment money, if that was moved from bed tax money. And the trailer. Those were all bed tax.
Oh, the parks trailer.
Yep.
Yep. So the, further on the agenda, we have the, sort of the end of the month meeting is going to be mostly about the annual financial report. When you look at our monthly expenses that were, produced, you'll see even in the dog control area where we'll have a negative number under dog control for PS, under the PS for the salary line. And we have a $7,000 allocation under the contract expenses. So we have to do some budget amendments at some point because that was based on when the budget was made. We envisioned having a contract with the town of Jay, and the dog control officer would be on their payroll, and we would pay per contract for the dog control shared services with the town of Jay. Never got that done fast enough. Don't want to, stop Trevor from continuing to work. So we continue to pay him at the same rate that we were paying last year's. So right now, it looks like it's a deficit on the payroll side because we have to move the money from the contract expenses. So we have a bunch of these kinds of budget amendments that I certainly would like to be able to do all at one time when we're doing all the budget type of things with the annual financial report, and we're closing the books on 2024. And that's, I anticipate we'll be doing that at the end of this month.
Okay.
So we moved that stuff in.
Okay, will we be able to see those documents before the meeting, or is this going to be?
Well, when I get to my report, I'll talk to you about
Okay.
what we're doing.
It's, and then I left a note on that about approving trainings. Like, I don't know why we stopped approving trainings in resolutions.
Well, can I just divide that between the two types of trainings? So, for example, we have two planning board members who want to go to the APA meeting. I look at those trainings as different because it's just part of their continuing education as well. Different from town board members going on a trip to New York City or to Perma and, to do a trip like that. Those numbers are so much higher than what, in the regular course of business, we do. So as the way I look at it is, they presented the supervisor, who's the chief fiscal officer, a request to go there. I put it in there. It's in the claims. You can approve the claim or not approve the claim. You get to review it then and there, but it isn't a decision for the board about that kind of stuff.
Yes, I believe the supervisor has the ability to approve purchases up to $1,000 or $1,500,
We have historically approved trainings.
not $150 trainings that you're questioning. Most of those ones just, hey, can I go to this for the day? And the supervisor's yay or nay.
Usually day trainings like that are up to the supervisor to do. If you're doing overnight
Overnights.
training and trainings that are gonna be out of town like that with overnight expenses, hotels, meals, and all that, then it has to be a board approval.
That's my understanding.
And just to answer a couple of your other questions on the notes, Laura, if you don't mind, favor. So all of the lights and things like that for the highway garage, general fund has to pay for all building expenses. So any lights, any maintenance to all buildings in the town, regardless of whether, except for water because it's its own district. That's the only exception. So that's why water does their own, because there's a water district, but the highway doesn't have, even though it has a separate budget, their building is owned by general fund. So if there's a repair, just like last year, that doesn't get put in the highway budget. That's part of the general fund budget, anything to do with buildings.
So it's your report.
That's it.
Okay, thanks. Tina,
Just a few things updated with the library. Their open meeting is on April 16th. On April 17th, they're going to do the fundamental of aging gracefully. It's a stretching class presented by Sarah Gardner, who's a physical therapist. The Feed the Need to Read, which is one of their biggest fundraisers, is going to be at the Hungry Trout on May 21st. They're working on a few programs for the summer, which is going to be an adult summer program for possibly a book club and the youth reading program. And our fire department now has a Facebook page, a new one out, and it's the Wilmington Fire and Rescue that we'd love to see everybody join. We have up-to-dates on our fire training that we've been doing, keeping up to date with what we've got, our latest training with regulations, and how we've been training with a lot of our long-term great standing firemen and rescue people that getting their knowledge, what they have to train us on. And we're selling community t-shirts. We have them for sale for $25. You can contact any of the members to get those. And we have an open house on April 26th from 11 to 3 at the firehouse. And the AFSP, along with the Twisted Raven, will be doing a program at the adult prom night on May 23rd, which is going to be raising money for mental health and anxiety, depression, behavioral health. All the money is going to stay in this area. We're seeing a lot of rise on a lot of services that we need help with, money staying in the North Country. And all this money is going to help stay there to help with all the additional services. Even at our meeting with the CYC recently, we're finding out that a lot of children are needing additional services as well. So that's why we're trying to promote the program a little bit more and help raise money for the area. And that's all I have.
thank you. Okay, so my report is, the first is, we've started to really overhaul the functionality and the ease of our website. So if you go to the website and you find board documents and agendas and things, you'll see, instead of, it used to be this sort of long string of a list from up to down, and thrown in sort of weird agendas and things. We've structured it now so we'll have an agenda before the meeting, and we put in the attachments so people can access the things that were given to the board ahead of the meeting that we're doing tonight. You can read them online. And then when the minutes are ready, the minutes will be uploaded. So there'll be 3 spaces corresponding to the April 8th date. So you can, there's the agenda. That's the first thing that goes up. The attachments we'll try to follow. We're working on how to make that happen easier. We have to scan and it has to be one document and things like that. So, but we're working, we tried it out for this meeting. We got the attachments up yesterday. So not early enough, but we're working on that part. And then when the minutes are approved, the minutes will be put on so that people can follow along. You'll know the date. Oh, I want to find out what happened on April 8th. I'd like the copies of those attachments. We've archived a heck of a lot of stuff from years past into a special area of the web page. We're updating as much as we can to get it to be as functional. I mean, I've always found our last year's website very frustrating, and I'll give total kudos to Carissa for the work that she's put into to learn how to do it and to continue to make improvements on it. And as we work on this thing, we're trying to get things so these financial reports can be posted so people can read them. The budget will be posted so you can read them, and it'll be in a special slot where it can be easy to find. So we've been working on that. The other thing is, as Darren mentioned, we did get the generator in. The final bill came underneath what the contract price was slightly, so that's hooray. And that'll be nicely set up, so we'll have that managed. The other thing we're going to look at as a board, we're working with the fire department, is upgrading our alarm system. The fire department had applied for a New York State
I'm freezing. Homeland Security grant. So we went with them because they have questions about their alarm system. So we've got a quote to help us with our alarm system here, which needs to be upgraded completely for about $14,000. And we're waiting to hear whether we're successful to, along with the fire department for that grant. And the other, am I missing anything? Should I be mentioning something? No, that's about it for me.
The work session.
Oh, but you have a resolution for that. So I will mention that Tim brought it up, but down further below, we're gonna make a motion to change the time of the work session on April 30th from 4 to 6 p.m. Because the work session is primarily going to focus, as I mentioned earlier, on the closing of the books for 2024, and then the review of the 2024 annual financial report. It will help us at that point when the annual financial report's finished. We will be able to look at what monies are left over in various accounts, how to basically sequester some of them or set up a fund balance and do those kinds of decisions. So it's going to be pretty much a money kind of meeting. Hopefully we won't have to do too many other things, but we can just focus on that. So that'll be coming up at the end of the month.
And you anticipate at that point we'll know how much unspent bed tax we have?
Yep. No, we'll actually get to see how, so when you're closing the account at the end of the year, you'll say, okay, Ed's water department has a balance of X. And then these are the types of things where we'll say, okay, we're going to, they call that encumbrance, where we can continue to keep it in the line going forward, or we can start setting up a capital reserve fund, which is what I think we should do for the homestead housing project. We could set up they have a special type of reserve fund for reducing the tax levy. We could start setting up one of those properly and start putting money into that kind of stuff. Hopefully we'll have that kind of discussion and maybe make some resolutions on it. Plus the budget amendments that I mentioned need to get done. Okay, so that's fine. Next on the agenda is the board review and consideration of the zoning code amendments passed by the planning board recently. I've told the board that we'll set aside 30 minutes for discussion of this. Each board member can talk for about 5 minutes if they choose on what they think of these amendments, what we should do next, or things like that. This isn't a public hearing on those amendments. That comes later. So we try to, if a board member doesn't have much to say, that's fine. But I just wanted to make sure everyone had a chance on the board to weigh in on what they think of this and stuff like that. So looking at it now, go right ahead. We'll go to 7 o'clock. Tim.
Does everyone on the board have copies of? No. Okay.
I have it digital, but I'd rather not look at my phone.
Oh.
Thank you.
I got one. I have a set. I'm sorry with that one.
I think we're good. You have it or no?
Yes, I do.
For the public, I didn't
Tim,
bring it
can I
up for
have
everyone.
those?
Yes. I have one there.
Yep.
I'll just, these proposed amendments I've drafted in response to what I believe are the community's, many members of the community's concerns about what happens in the next 5 and 10 years in Wilmington. The first two, the first is taken from a previous North Elba code with the numbers. The North Elba numbers were much higher. The $8,000 number was a number that a previous town board, I guess at this point it's 2 town boards ago, in 2022 agreed on as a board. As the sense of the majority of the board was that 8,000 was appropriate. The second proposed amendment is taken from the Walmart versus Planning Board of the Town of North Elba case. And believe it or not, that's a known case in the zoning world and in the land use world. That's somewhat of a landmark case. And the Town of North Elba's Planning Board denied Walmart's application, and their decision was upheld on appeal. So the two most important parts, two parts of the previous North Elba code that the court relied on in upholding the planning board's decision are in proposed amendment 2. Proposed amendment 3 is from, they're basically adopted from Wilmington's previous land use code, which was repealed and replaced in 2013. And they relate to, they're in response to the concerns I've heard about clear cutting and unsightly negative visual impacts in the community and negative impacts on neighboring property owners. They're close to what was in the previous, they're almost verbatim from the previous Wilmington zoning code. I did water it down a little. I changed the old Wilmington code had in the first line, ensure that all approved projects. I watered it down by changing it to all approved commercial projects. And the old Wilmington code was 20 feet of vegetative buffer. I changed that to 30. The fourth proposed amendment is simply in response to complaints we've received about overflowing dumpsters and unkept dumpsters and dumpsters visible from the roadway. I have lived near an overflowing dumpster, and it certainly does make a negative impact on the neighbors because wind exists and animals exist. And I didn't really enjoy picking up other people's trash because they couldn't maintain their dumpsters. I didn't find that delightful. So that is a brief summary of the proposed amendments. I'm in favor of them.
Thank you. Darren, you're next.
I guess I'll take them one by one and just give my thoughts. So as far as the 8,000 square feet and 40,000 square feet in all buildings, and then it's saying that that also includes exterior space for sale and storage of merchandise. So my concern with this is Wilmington has talked for years about attracting different various businesses, whether it be, a larger hotel to come here someday, or, different apartment buildings. So what does retail trade business actually mean? Does that mean if we have a Holiday Inn want to come here and because it's 8,000 square feet, even though it's a floor area and it's 3 stories high, is that 8,000 square feet footprint? Does that 8,000 square feet altogether? I'm not sure what that means on some of that stuff. So I think we need to have a discussion of what 8,000 square feet actually means and what that means when it says retail trade. Do hotels and things like that count? Because what is not included here is you had on one of the things that Carl had, and there's a couple businesses in town like Whiteface Corners, once everything is added together, is greater than the 8,000 square feet. And I would hate to see Wilmington basically just say, It's not allowed here, so you're not welcome without having a possibility to have a discussion on that. Number two of that, as far as no material adverse impact, I get the purpose of that. However, I would like to see it a little bit more detailed, because I basically feel that that can be made a case no matter what it is. So if it's a business selling ice cream cones or a business selling cars, the neighboring property could have a material adverse effect. So I feel like based on that clause, it doesn't matter what business it is, it could possibly have a adverse effect on a neighboring property. So who's to say that it has an adverse effect? And is it going to be just to our planning board, or is there going to be an outside agency that we hire as far as determining what the adverse impact is? Because everybody's definition of an adverse impact is different. Number three, visual screening and impacts. Again, I get the purpose of it. 30 square feet of trees and vegetation, depending on where it is not that much. So sometimes when you're left 30 feet of brush and shrubs along the edge of a road, it could look worse than if it was cleared, new lawn put in, and then some new planting. So, I mean, the idea of it is good, but when you're saying natural vegetation left in its natural unimproved state,
Or improved, not unimproved, or
well,
improved.
again, left in its natural state regardless, that 30 feet could look worse than if it was just taken out and replanted. So I understand the screening impact, but I don't know if I'm necessarily in favor of saying that it left natural. And then what about other places in town where there is no natural screening? So let's just say the property that I can think of across from like the Country Bear, there's that field area. If there was a business that was right there, there is no natural screening. So that business could get away without any screening, where a business 100 feet up the road that has trees in front of it has to leave screening. So I don't understand how we're going to decide the differences there. Number four, again, totally understand the dumpsters. But what do we do in instances like Fratelli's, where it's a fairly small piece of property and there is no way for them to put a dumpster 20 feet away from any property lines or public roadways, unless they put the dumpster in the center of their parking lot? Again, we got to have exceptions for situations like that, because there is no other place to put a dumpster on a property like that except within those areas. So again, totally understand the purpose. I wouldn't want necessarily a dumpster next to me, but I think we have to have a realistic expectation depending on the property and the business, if that's feasible or not.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Laura?
I'm in favor of the 8,000. I think the 40,000 is, I mean, I can't even fathom that much real estate, but I don't know where that number came from. I don't think.
It came from my brain.
Okay.
As the North Elba number was higher, so I
Okay.
just tried. I don't remember exactly how I came up with that number. It was 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yep.
I understand about the materially adverse. That doesn't roll off the tongue there. But you know, I think we do need to have something in there that there is some way for someone to plead a case. You know, as far as whether or not that they feel, and materially adverse means financially impacting. Am I incorrect with that?
No, that's basically correct.
Okay.
In law school, I asked more than once for a definition of what materially means, because they use that phrase incessantly. I could never get it great. It either means financially or it means something that would make you or a reasonable person do something differently. That's the definition I got.
So I'm in favor of that language just because it does give somebody a way to interpret it. And as we've seen, there's a lot of, in their applications, people can add as much as they'd like to say to plead their case. So I think that that would be helpful to have. But then again, you know, what I find unappealing is not necessarily what somebody else would find unappealing. So, you know, it all depends on who is in that situation. The number 3, I know what you're saying, Darren, but I think anything left in place is better than having what we have had happen in some of the new developments and businesses where we don't have as much screening as it would have been more beneficial to have things not so seen. So I'm in favor of the screening and setbacks. And I don't think it needs, you know, it could just be, I know what you're saying as far as natural, but a pre-existing thing doesn't need to have,
Sorry.
you know, no, you're fine.
Okay.
Pre-existing properties that don't have the trees, obviously we're not going to have them, you know, we wouldn't ask them to, if it's in place, then leave it if possible. But look at what we did with the KOA. You know, they took down a whole bunch of trees along the sidelines, and then there were trees falling because they disrupted the root system. And then we have screening that we had to put a fence in place because the neighbors complained about it. So I think if we're, you know, there's so many different things that we have made exceptions for historically, and that we are appeasing people because they're disgruntled with something. And, you know, I think 30 feet is a tiny little bit that you could have something set back from. And then the dumpsters, I just want clarification. Do you mean the big metal dumpsters? Because it says waste receptacles, which are inclusive in my mind of those like 2 bins that you have. And those can't, I mean, personally speaking, I have them. I'm in favor of the larger dumpsters having screening, but you have to bring those out every day and put them by the side of or once a week and put it by the side of the road. So I don't necessarily know. I think the larger dumpsters that are more, you know, in one spot would be something that you could enforce the screening, and I'm in favor of that.
Thank you.
I'm in favor of the dumpsters, I agree with that, but I'm.
Hold on, let me start your comment. Are you finished?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Gina.
I'm in favor of the dumpsters. I just don't know about the 20-foot setback, because some places don't have that. I think that's where we're gonna run into the problem, is the property line setback. Because a lot of places and businesses and stuff are borderline to other places. You know, so I'm not quite sure how we're to address that, because I don't think a lot of places have that ability to be off that line.
I think,
Hold on, Chief. It's not a dialogue. She gets
I
to
think
talk.
that's
This is the
gonna
rules.
be one of them. The 30-foot of natural vegetation, I think the 30 feet, 30 foot is fine, but I'm just wondering if there's a way of redoing that with screening somehow, of some type of screening of not as much natural, just screening when they're doing that. Because sometimes, like Dan said, you have the dead trees, you have logs, it depends on where you are of what's proposed at that road. It may not look as good as a new lawn would when they go to build something. So maybe as far as a nice screening there, instead of just natural vegetation, the screening 30 foot from the road. It's back to number 1, 800 square foot. I just wanted to touch base that on that sheet that Carl had, 800 square feet is 600, over Shannon Lake Placid is 8,400. So just to give people the size rate of what we were talking about on number 1, it should not exceed 8,000 square foot. That is, okay. What are you telling me?
I don't want to interrupt your time.
Okay,
but
I'm done, that's all I'm saying.
I was just saying that's just the inside
Inside,
space,
inside,
and this
yeah.
is saying 8,000,
In total.
including outside.
Outside, okay, yeah. So that's just the inside. Okay, yeah, I was looking stereo.
You got more time, Tina, keep going.
So, that's all I was just saying. So even, okay, so ward number outside is 9,300. So that's size wise. And that's just the main part of ward number, the main building.
Yep.
So I was just wanted to point that out to everybody as size wise. And those are the only points that I wanted to bring up that I had. That I wanted to share.
Thank you. Okay, 2 minutes, very good.
Do we have any circle back, or are we just?
No, it's my turn. Okay, so, so one of the things, I mean, I think there's some misunderstanding, sort of what I was sort of envisioning when we asked that the planning board undertake some of this kind of work for the town board. Is because the town board, as you can see, is going through a series of factual questions that town boards can do. But if they have a committee and a planning board who could undertake some of that stuff, it provides coverage for the town board. So the town board can sit there and listen to these things. So for us, one of my concerns, and I've said it since I started talking about the comprehensive plan, is it's important that the community be careful about the changes it makes to what used to be a comprehensive plan. And they have to make sure that things fit, because communities can get accused of things like they call it spot zoning, because it doesn't seem to be following a plan. And what I'm sometimes, I'm often concerned about on behalf of, from the town's point of view, is not undergoing another set of litigation circumstances that we went through the past year with the beach in the town and the attorney's fees, because these kinds of things aren't covered by insurance, and the town would be required to pay for its attorney to defend what they're up to. So the more evidence that we've really put some thought into it, it's a good idea. And so it seems to me that the next step, I'll just throw it out there and then I'm finished with my discussion, is if the board wants to go forward with these as submitted by the planning board, then we need to have them drafted into like a local law format. And then we would submit them to our legal counsel for review and comment and opinion. That's my suggestion of the next step. If we're interested in moving this forward in that process, that's the next step. If we could go back and ask either us, or it would probably be us at this point, to go and try to fit this in with what kind of exceptions we may want to see. One of the things here, Tim, the language was the planning in Maine, they're described, the planning board, so this is Amendment 3, paragraph 2. The planning board and zoning board of appeals may in their discretion require additional measures to provide screening. They may also loosen the measures. They're going to face a situation where additional measures may mean we're not going to follow this to the strict letter of what this law says because of their particular situation. So those kinds of changes, may seem wise for the town. But so drafting and things like that. So that's my suggestion. Some of these things I think are terrific ideas. I think that, whether we deal with dumpsters through a local law permitting kind of deal like junk cars, where it's not zoning specifically, it's something else that we're doing for public health. That's an option. But this is what been suggested to us, and we should take some steps. But we'll have to discuss how to do that. Name it. So I'm finished. Now, okay, so I didn't provide for this, but anybody question for anyone around here? You have a question?
Nope, Darren wanted.
Darren wanted to bring something.
I just wanted to say a couple of things. I mean, I'm not generally negative towards any of these in particular totally, but I do agree with a couple of Tina's comments. Like the 30 feet of screening would be fine because there's just certain situations where again, natural vegetation is going to look worse than if it was a nice new planted screening. You had brought up the KOA now, and it's saying from the public street or highway, and the trees that they took down were all well beyond the 30 feet buffer. So there's certain situations where that's not going to work. And then there's been comment, and I just do want to say this for the record. I have not got any financial impact from KOA. I have not worked for them, so I'm not saying this out of any financial circumstances because that would be the next thing. I have not got any work from the KOA out of any of these projects. But for example, the Fox Farm project, one of the stipulations of reopening from the health department was the septics had to be upgraded. It's fact. And in order to put the new septic system in the way the Department of Health wanted, there had to be trees taken down. Nobody wanted the trees taken down, but in order to upgrade the septic system the way the Department of Health wanted, there had to be trees taken down. It went through an engineer, it went through a review process of both the planning board, the health department, and KOA, and that's where they determined the septic system was going. So it wasn't a matter of clear cutting for extra sites, it was a clear cutting for basically a way to protect the town because the septic system is being upgraded. So certain things, although they seem great on paper, don't always allow for things the way they need to be done. The same way with, the 40,000, 8,000, I get it. Take a business like Hazelton Lumber. I mean, if you look at their yard and how sprawling it is, and it's not even on there, if we pass these things and there was ever, Hazelton shut down and then another business was to come in, basically we're saying we're not going to allow that business to open in our town because every time it changes ownership or if it was shut down for a period of time, it would have to be reapproved. And based on these amendments, without any type of exceptions, that business would never be allowed again in town of Wilmington.
Thank you, Darren. Comments from anybody?
Yeah,
Laura, too.
go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Favor, at first I thought you were going one place with your comments, and then you really turned it around and went in a different direction, and I'm appreciative of the direction that your comments suggest. As far as I understand this this fear that whatever business that would be beneficial to the town that is larger than 8,000 square feet would be prohibited, but it's not, and that's why we have the zoning board, right? That's why there's a built-in mechanism into the whole code for someone to get an exception, and that's a variance. It doesn't have to. That's the whole law. Like, I don't think, in fact, actually, a previous draft of these amendments, I had said larger operations are able to apply for a variance, and the lawyer said, don't put that in there. Like, that's obvious. That's just redundant. There's no need to have that language in there. I don't think it's necessary. If our council says it is necessary to put that sentence in there, then of course I have no objection. But I think it's heavily implied with the whole zoning code and the existence of the zoning board of appeals, and that's their job, is to hear appeals and hear variances. Retail trade, this, all this language has worked for other towns, has worked for Wilmington. It's held up in court. I believe that retail trade means what we think it means when we hear that phrase. However, if when a land use attorney reviews these, they think that it should be phrased differently so it doesn't apply to hotels, then of course I would be fine with adjusting any language. And then just the materially adverse impact. Our current code uses the phrase undue adverse impact. And so that language is in our code, I think, 3 times with site plan review and special use permits. Permits will not be permitted if there's an undue adverse impact. that phrase is vague. Materially adverse is more precise. It's a little stronger. I don't think it's a big change. I think it's making the zoning code a little stronger and a little tighter.
Laura,
What I was referring to is in the amendment where it says adjoining property not in the same ownership. I wasn't referring to the public street. So that language is in there. That's what I was referring to, not the roadway. And then the DEC, I meant to mention this, but there's a lot happening today. The DEC has its own program or policy that you can utilize to review the aesthetic, how to assess and mitigate the visual and aesthetic impacts. And it's this really beautiful document that you can utilize to help clear up how that you would interpret something that's materially or clearly adversely impacting something. So it makes it a little bit easier because it is such a muddied, just, how that somebody would make it, the difference of interpretation, it kind of allows the people to clear it up. And that's from the DEC. And I have that document, but I forgot to mention it. That's it.
It's the same with the just the same with the abnormally small lots that would need some kind of, that couldn't put a dumpster 20 feet away from the property line. They too would have a variance mechanism built into the law. I mean, that's why people apply for variances, because they want to do something outside of what the code allows. Yeah, and I actually agree with Favor's suggestion to allow the planning board maybe a little more discretion with the screening. But I do think there's a lot of discretion built in. And it's just general guidelines. So I'm not sure that they have to be necessarily interpreted or applied every time. They're somewhat vague. I think that there is there's space there for individuals with unique circumstances, and there's space there for discretion. And then if there isn't, then that's where you apply for a variance.
thank you. 7 o'clock, perfect. Well done. Thank you so much. So just generally speaking, I think what we're going to try to do, our next step is I outlined what I suggested, and maybe we're going to communicate in an email to each other about what each person thinks our next step should be, because we'd have to put it in a form so that the lawyer isn't charging us to write up the local law the right way. So we'll have to discuss that among ourselves if someone on our board wants to do that. So next is board review and consideration of the job postings. Sorry about sending out the one with the extremely high hourly rate.
Verify.
So the first job posting is, and what we'd like the board to do tonight is to review and approve it, so we can post these things tomorrow. So we'll have to set hourly rates and things like that. So if you could go through it.
Yep.
And do that kind of stuff. We have the job posting for the youth program in the summer is same as last year's, except for I added, based on the last meeting, a 3-day-a-week summer youth group with 2 applicants. The group is tentatively scheduled, and I don't have the exact dates when the program starts. I saw an email from Amy Langford on it, and I didn't update this. But apart from that, the rate was the same as last year's, and so are the certification requirements and things like that. Any comments on that one?
I think it looks good. If we can't get people at that salary, I would be fine with going a little higher. But other than that, I think it looks good. And if we can get people at that wage, then that's great.
One clarification. I thought last year we had said that they had to have lifeguard certification.
I was just circling that because one person on there has to be lifeguard certified if you're going to.
Okay, we can do that. So especially if you're doing any kind of trip into the woods, they have to be lifeguard certified. Okay.
So how would you phrase that, Tina? Go right ahead. Take it from it.
Oh, the one of them, the applicant's gonna have to be first aid, CPR, and lifeguard certified.
Yep.
So basically, both of them are gonna be, because you never know which one's gonna be here if one calls out sick.
All right, there we go. Just an and get rid of that as a plus. Okay? So to read, applicants must also be certified in first aid, CPR, and lifeguard. And possess current lifeguard certification. Okay, so I don't think we need anything so formal as a resolution to approve this, but is this
Can I
approved?
just ask a question about the whole lifeguard thing? So
Sure.
if we have a certified teacher apply for this position, but they're not lifeguard, we wouldn't accept them for the position because they're not a lifeguard to lead our youth program?
Well, one of the things, this is the sort of the either or stuff. So last year we had one counselor who was lifeguard certified. This person worked at the beach and then it did a couple days up here at the youth center. I think one's fine because last year it worked out fine because the other person was an almost certified teacher, but she's a master's in teaching and was getting her, so they designed lesson plans. They did all the things that they teach you at education.
Because I thought our way around this was if we did that type of certification, we were going to ask one of our lifeguards to accompany them on the trip.
Yeah. We did that, but we also had somebody who was a lifeguard who would like to have done this too because they're an education major.
Okay.
So that's how it worked out last year. It just kind of lined out.
Make sure one's lifeguard certified.
Okay, so I'll have to phrase that a little differently. Thank you, Garrett.
Should say both of them. One's gotta be.
Okay, lifeguards. So these are, do we have any qualifications on how old our lifeguards should be?
New York State does, I believe.
18?
16.
16?
16. Dan, do you know?
16, I think.
16, I believe.
Thank you. The salaries ranged last year from 18 to 19. I'm going to suggest we offer maybe a little more this year. Anybody have any thoughts on what the salary should be?
What did we budget?
We budgeted $22,000 for the beach program. And that was based on, last year I was, the salaries, they never came close to spending that much money. Because there was never 3 of them on 5 days a week or 7 days a week when I sort of had hoped that, we'd have that kind of stuff. They would, somebody didn't show up, there was a weekend where nobody showed up. So it was, so we had money left over from that because we, put in 22 and we didn't spend it.
No, I think it should be arranged similar to the, youth center of maybe 19 to 23 or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, depending on experience, obviously, somebody that's done it for 15 years is going to be different than somebody that just got their certification and is 16 years old.
I'd actually go 21 to 24.
21 to 24?
I would.
That's Tina's, that's Darren's, it's 2019 to 23.
Dawn?
Hold on. I'll call her one then. Tim, you have any thoughts on that?
No. My mind is blank.
Okay, Laura?
New hire for junior lifeguards in lake class is 23 an hour. And head lifeguard is 25 an hour.
That's because we got all their lifeguards last year and they're going to make sure that they pay more than we do this year. Okay. Yes, John?
I think that there has to be an 18-year-old there when there's a 16-year-old lifeguard. I don't think the 16-year-old can be there by themselves.
That's why I'm kind of going with what Joyce mentioned out loud, but 18 may be
I think 18.
We-
I mean,
we-
I'm
we-
looking at my stuff for my camp. We don't have water, so we don't worry about lifeguards at our camp. But it seems to me, I read somewhere it's 18 years old.
Yeah, I would,
That's for camp.
thank you,
But
Susie.
this is a day camp. This is considered a day camp, so it would fall
Well-
into that.
So here's what I would say. I would say, okay, if you're looking, it must be at least 18 years old. And then if we find a candidate who comes in and seems to fit perfectly, who happens to be 16, we might be able to make an exception so long as they're working with 18-year-old workers.
New York State law certification for lifeguard certification, you must be at least 15 years old.
For a pool,
For a pool.
16 other.
Waterfront.
16 otherwise, I'm
Yep.
just reading it all now.
Okay, so where are we at?
YMCA 15, I'm going down.
Yes.
I'm reading all the way up there now.
All right.
I know in the past, they haven't all been 18. We've had many school kids.
Yeah.
Juniors and seniors that have applied.
Yeah,
I know for our summer use, we have 18, we have 16.
okay, but, we're the suggested minimum age is 18.
Yes.
All right. The parks. So this is the rate, the 19 to 21 an hour was, we discussed that inside the shop, as it were.
I'm sorry, what was the salaries that we decided, 21 to 23 for the lifeguard?
Yes. So that's, the high end is Darren's and the low end was Tina's.
I think just the opposite, but it doesn't matter. I'm fine either way.
Oh, don't play with this, Dan.
Darren, you got the high end was 23 and Tina had 21, 24. Okay, thank you. So the parks, so we'd like to post this immediately and see if we can get people who are interested to start in May. As it says, May to October. Are there any conditions? I mean, do we want to discuss what we have an idea for the the weekly hours might be?
As determined by the park superintendent.
Yeah, but we have to maybe, not to exceed 30 or not to exceed 35 or something like that is what I'm.
And weekends are a possibility if we're
Should be a must.
Yeah, weekends will have to be a must.
Weekends a must.
That's right.
And then I don't know if I saw it in here anywhere when I looked down through quick. I believe because I know when I worked for the town and the people did not have a driver's license, it wasn't very handy because you had to
Oh, yeah, where's
drop
that?
them off and then try to pick them back up. So I believe they should possess a valid driver's license.
Oh dear, that now brings up all sorts of questions. Okay, so I would put that under qualifications. Okay, so we'll make the changes to this. I'll circulate it with the board, and then I'm going to be away. So you just email back to the deputy supervisor and to Carissa, and she can get those posted.
Is John expecting this to be a full-time employee basically for these 6 months? See,
I don't
Does
think
he need
I don't think so. I think he needs more. It's the weekends. It's like Darren says to some extent. We for a while we've had a part-time parks employee doing half a day, and then the other half at the fire department anyway. So he's missing that. So it's a half-time kind of position. And then over the years, we don't get as much help anymore from local corrections places, things like that would come up and send people to help us with our parks and our cemeteries and things. So it's got more for him to do. The weekends are busy around here, and we really could certainly have somebody who's here attending to making sure the beach is all set and the bathhouses and things like that. So yeah, John will be happy to he's grateful to have somebody show up and help him in that respect. And if it's seasonal, but it's, let's say, 25 hours a week or 30 hours a week or something like that. Thank you. So what's next on the agenda? Oh, it's a motion to change the time of the regular meeting at the April 30th from 4 to 6 for the board review of the 2024 annual financial report. A motion to change the time. Tim makes it. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
7.
What? It wants 7 o'clock, I know, but I can't, I'm never awake.
Fine.
All right,
I'm fine with that.
all those in favor, aye?
Alright.
Okay, the next is, there's no old business unless somebody has old business they'd like to bring up from the board. Okay, next is like the claims audit budget transfer, the bill pay resolution for period covering March 12th to April 7th, 2025. May I have a motion to pay those bills?
Make it.
Laura, is there a second?
I'll second.
Darren, any discussion or questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, public comment. Please raise your hand. Anybody want to weigh in? Charlie, Terry, all right ahead. Thank you.
I'm confused. You said something about getting your lifeguard to go for a walk.
If there's water involved,
Water, I understand.
yeah, but sometimes there's creeks and things like that. So the safest thing to do is make sure you have a lifeguard in case they fall into casual water. They go to a brook and they want to splash around an awful lot. It just seems to me that A, it may be a requirement, and B,
I'm fine with that. You just said, well, if they go for a walk in the woods, they're gonna have a lifeguard. And that just-
lifeguards are good against trees who attack.
There you go.
Walk in the woods with mud puddles.
And
Thanks.
the other one, the parks people, is that one of the guys who does the boats?
No, generally what we do with that is, the boat program, we've discussed, but we haven't taken any action on, upgrading our fleet of, really old, tired out canoes, kayaks, and things like that. So we'll probably get together, have John. John has also talked about, he's showing me estimates on updating our lifeguard stand because apparently Bill Skufka put that together years ago and it's got lots of screws in it and things like that. So we're going to try to look at the beach, getting the beach ready for the summer and the boat. And then we'll see how we do with the help wanted ads. I think it's, personally, I just think it's a good idea. I like to see high school kids with a job like that. I thought they did a very good job last year. They were conscientious. They kept an eye on the boats. They did well with customers. They did well with the money. You know, at the end of this, there's big week during the 4th of July, and I think it's good.
I just want to clear
Yeah,
up.
I mean, if we can get that kind of stuff, that's great.
Just want to clear up. I'm asking because I like to learn. I don't want to.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Favor, this is Tony Nicanello.
Hey, Tony, sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just going to clarify and enlighten on the training. It's state law requires that members receive at least 4 hours of training each year. Training in excess of 4 hours in any 1 year may be carried over into a succeeding year.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's a little clarifying of the law that we have to follow for training.
Tony, I wasn't referring to that. There was other trainings in this invoice, and there have been other trainings that have been approved, that have gone through, that haven't gone before the board. So I'm very well aware of the training requirement for the zoning and planning board.
Great, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Nancy?
You went through the beach, the youth center, and the seasonal labor for the parks department. How many people are you looking for, or do you have the people already? Are you looking for more?
One for the parks, I'd like to have 4 or 5 lifeguards.
And how many do you have that are on board already?
1.
Just one?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that's the plexiglass that keeps the breeze.
Oh.
It's now separated from it's a seasonal, keeps the breeze from freezing Doug's office downstairs. So it'll be coming off, but hasn't warmed up for a long enough period of time for them to take it down. Okay, anybody else?
I my name is Em Doyle. My hand's up. I don't know if there's an online facilitator, so
But you
just
just,
chime in,
yeah,
like,
just speak up. That's
cool,
right.
cool. I was wondering if there was any plans to have the walkways and crosswalks repainted to and some of the signs for crosswalks only face one direction. And it sometimes can be a little hairy crossing the streets.
If you don't mind,
Mhm.
any street in particular you're thinking of right now?
86, right across from the visitor center, and then going across from Springfield, right at that stop sign, the crosswalk isn't painted there. Also across from Park Lane, from walking on the sidewalk, if you want to cross, there isn't a sign right there to get to the sidewalk that goes up Park Lane. Those are 3 spots I can think of off the top of my head.
The
Okay.
one from 86 up to 431 also is dated.
Okay. So what we'll do is, I know last year I seem to remember I got some communication from the Department of Transportation for the New York State roads and their painting.
Mhm.
He takes care of that.
Do they typically do it annually?
They do it yearly, but they never give you time when they do it.
Okay.
It's just when they're not doing
But there are
it.
other things that are town county stuff that we could look at.
The county weekend for
County.
Springfield Road, they'll come assess it, see what they think and let us know.
Okay,
I can call them and do the county one,
thank you.
but DOT will do it eventually.
No, I seem to remember that. I got some call out of the blue about that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Should we call and remind the state
We can, I can just ask them, but.
just to give them a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
nudge?
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make it.
Darren, second?
Second.
Thank you.
Take off.
5 in the morning.
Go.
So, yeah, you're not gonna be one piece.
5 in the morning.
Ask the clerk.
Ask the clerk. He says,